Hey guys, I guess I should be looking at this green dot here, but I'm more comfortable like just looking here too. So this video is about psychic readings and why you should not get psychic readings. I am telling you, whatever that is motivating you to get a reading is going to make it 10 times worse. There are many, I'm trying not to say so like just bear with me, but this message is so urgent because I see more and more people getting into the occult and psychic readings. I'm also someone who struggled with getting psychic readings in the past. I was into psychic readings for 25 years, 30 years, okay? So I know that anxiety that comes with wanting to get a psychic reading and how addictive it can be. But I'm here to tell you that it is a vicious cycle of getting psychic readings, because once you call them, it's going to make you want more information. It opens a demonic doorway. And when those spirits come through, it's going to create more drama to make you want to get another reading. And so you start relying on the demonic rather than going straight to God. Because going to the demonic, getting the psychic readings is a lot faster than like praying to God and waiting for him to answer you. In most cases, God, he works pretty fast. He wants to protect you. But at the same time, like calling a psychic within like a couple seconds is a lot faster and more convenient for some people than actually praying about it. But in the end, if you go to the demonic source, that issue that you wanted insight on will get worse and it's going to change. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but if you go to a psychic once, you know, they might be accurate, okay? The second time, if you ask a question about that same issue, is going to get worse in the physical, because now you are impeding on someone's privacy and free will when you use psychic energies and powers to peek into their life. You're contacting their monitoring spirits to get access about information that maybe they want to keep secret. So there are a lot of karmic stuff that happens when you get psychic readings. You're not supposed to get psychic readings. God tells you that in the Bible. It's not to be a downer, but it's to let you not rely on the other side. Because if you get psychic readings, you will be spiritually cut off. You will be cast off. You will suffer from anxiety, depression, and it's going to be a vicious cycle that's very hard to break out of. Believe me, I have met so many people that are addicted to readings, and they're highly intelligent, logical people with really good jobs, and they get in a rut and they're in this horrible cycle of wanting to know if their ex is coming back, or it's all about unrequited love. And it's going to get worse because you're going to psychics and you're allowing demons to come into that area of your life. And they're not going to make it easier for you. They're going to make it worse. Okay. I actually know of a woman that I tried to help in the past. She was making $250,000 a year. All right. $250,000 a year. This woman lost her house and she lost her car because she fell behind on payments due to paying so much for psychic readings about a man that was giving her the bare minimum. And that's another thing about the readings. They make you attached to someone that isn't for you, and it builds like a feeling of hope, of obsession too, all right? And more than likely, it doesn't manifest. It doesn't come to fruition, even though it was probably something that God meant for you. But because you're allowing the demonic into your life, they're going to delay things, give you oppression, make things go wrong, okay? So while it is very enticing to want to get answers now, you're going to like ruin your chances of whatever you're calling about. Now for myself, when I got psychic readings, it was, at first it was like, okay, whatever. Then I noticed patterns, like whenever I called about a guy, that relationship didn't happen and really bad things happened to the guy. And people could say, well, maybe because he was giving you mixed signals, it made you nervous, and so you wanted to call a psychic. Not really. They all started off as really good, and then I just wanted to know more, see what he was thinking about me, what he was doing that day. And as soon as I got a psychic reading, that person became distant. And I thought it was my imagination until one day I actually spoke to a psychic, and she was like, girl, stop asking so many questions about him. You're going to energetically scare him off. And so even some psychics will admit that getting constant readings on a situation will push it away from you. Also, I know of another psychic. See, I'm not dropping names, but I promise you this is like all real people, okay, that I've met and know, all right? Another psychic, she was getting like hundreds of dollars a day, dude. Like this woman was getting like at least like close to $900, $1,000 a day doing readings for people. And I believe that it was even more because this chick was charging like $150 to $300 for readings, and she had a waiting list, all right? But eventually she stopped giving readings because she noticed that even though they were accurate, these people were opening doorways into their lives that invited the spirit of delay. The spirit of delay, of course, is very self-explanatory. Like whatever was meant for them, they don't get it because they open that demonic doorway, and demons, they don't want you to feel happy and satisfied in life, you know, so they delayed a lot of things for those people. And she was getting frustrated because just things were not happening, just like the weirder stuff. And then she started to feel some type of way. And it's not just her imaginings. She was a very, she's a very smart woman. So to give up thousands of dollars, hundreds of dollars in a day, okay, and this economy, that means that she saw something that the demonic didn't want her to see. Those spirit guys that were giving her like all this information and stuff, she realized that they weren't really spirit guys, but they were demons that she was inviting into her life, into her client's life also. So she put that all to the side. She's no longer giving readings, and she's a Christian. As for myself, who was like diehard occult, like into witchcraft, psychic readings, whatever, I gave it up when I noticed the physical things that were like happening to me each time I got a reading. The more I got into it, the more I was like, my heart's beating fast. Like really unfortunate things happen to people that I call psychics about. And I noticed that when Doreen Virtue, this is a turning point for me, one of the turning points, but Doreen Virtue, she used to be like a huge like lady into the, psychic occult world. She had the oracle cards, like you guys know, like Doreen Virtue had like so many like tarot cards and all that was so popular. Her designs were iconic. But when she left the occult and she had a revelation from Jesus that what she was doing was so detrimental, she stopped selling everything, and she renounced the occult. And these so-called loving people, folks that were just like, oh, it's all about spirituality, just follow your own path, blah, blah, were so triggered. They reacted in the craziest way. They were so mad that this woman became a Christian. And I was like, okay, so you guys are so open-minded until she becomes a Christian. It seems like something spiritually is agitated in you, because the way you're reacting is coming off as scary. There were people manifesting in some forums because Doreen Virtue became a Christian. And one thing I noticed is that people get really triggered by the truth. And they would not have reacted that way if she became a Buddhist or went to Hinduism. Even if she stopped doing tarot and she went into like some other Eastern religion, they wouldn't be upset, because now I know that that is not of God. Like Jesus Christ is the true Savior, the meaning, the life, the truth, everything, okay? And unfortunately, people who are in the occult have demons attached to them and in them, and they react some type of way whenever you say the name Jesus. I reacted some type of way when people would say Jesus. I was actually raised a Muslim, and so from a very young age, I was told that Christianity was like the white man's religion, like it's not true, whatever, blah, blah, blah. but it left me open to so many attacks in my childhood. Like I would read the Quran and try to find ways to protect myself from the attacks that I had nightly. You know, like I would just see demons and ghosts and like all these weird things in my house, and I couldn't protect myself. It just got worse and worse and worse. And I remember when I was in college, okay, I was like, we had a party, everyone was just sleeping in the room like after that party, and for some reason something woke me up, and I looked to the doorway, and there's like a blackness that was just black, darker than night. It was in the doorway, but it wouldn't come into the room because there was like light there, I guess some protection. And I suddenly couldn't move. My eyes were glued on the spot, and it said very clearly in my head how it wanted to harm me. And as I said in my head, like to protect myself, like, Allah, please help me, this thing laughed at me. It laughed, okay? And I said, Buddha, help me. And it laughed even more. But for some reason, I wouldn't say Jesus, because I was told as a young child, like, you can never say, Jesus, like Jesus is like a prophet, whatever. And so this thing just threatened me, attacked me and everything. And then the next day I told my friends about what I saw, and the folks that lived there said like, yeah, that's so weird that you saw something in that spot, because we've always felt something dark there, even though this is a new apartment, like there's just something strange, and that's crazy that you picked up on that too. So fast forward like 10 years later, I got more revelations about the truth of Jesus Christ, but I didn't want to listen to it because I thought Christians were boring, they were judgmental, but I didn't like how there is some power behind the name Jesus. And when I was actually getting attacked one night, okay, I said Jesus, and that thing scattered like a rat. It was out of there so fast. And I'm like, if Jesus is not real, if he's just a prophet, then why do these things run like little dirty rats whenever I say his name, okay? But even after I saw the power of Jesus, it took me a while to actually admit and to get saved. Now, I don't believe once saved, always saved, but I got saved a couple years ago, and that's another story. But I took a long time in getting saved because I was in the occult, like really deep. I did spells, calendar work, especially I was into calendar work a lot. I did stuff by the full moon, honey jars, like tarot, oracle cards, you name it. Also conjuring and all that stuff. Like the best kiss that I ever got in my life was from an entity, okay? That was how deep I was into the occult. I could actually feel these manifestations in my bed, like they were a physical person, okay? And like they're beautiful. Like these entities that I was working with, when I saw them with my third eye, they make Henry Cavill look like a number 2, okay? So I was having too much fun in the occult, but then I noticed that it all came with a price, especially when I did psychic readings. And I know that there is a trend on TikTok and YouTube warning people not to get psychic readings. Not to get love spells, not to do it because it impedes on someone's free will. But psychic readings are just as worse, if not 10 times worse. They open doorways. Whenever you get insight using, when you get unauthorized insight in the spirit by way of, psychic readings, you are breaking laws, okay? And when that happens, that creates a lot of karma on your end. And I know that a lot of women love to get psychic readings on their partner, see like what he's doing, how he's feeling. There's a third party. But it is a very horrible feeling when you find out that someone got psychic reading on you. You don't know that anger until it actually happens to you. And about a year ago, I had a friend and she got a psychic reading on me. And I got so mad because it was like some of it was true, but it was just some things that were just not true at all. And it just made me look like a horrible person. And if you're getting information from demons, they're going to give you like 98% truth, maybe 95% truth. And then they're going to give you, the rest is like very strategic lies, you know, just a little bit of lies. Okay. And I'm not going to try to shame people about like, you know, trying to counteract this addiction, because even Eve, okay, she was the woman, she was the first of us who wanted knowledge, you know, and that knowledge like separated her from the Garden of Eden. Like, unfortunately, women, we want to know more, we want to know the truth, okay? And God told her not to, and there are just so many implications, okay? And unfortunately, as the daughters of Eve, we are still enticed by the so-called tree of life, you know, like that knowledge that God doesn't want us to have, because it's like good and evil, okay? So it is in us, in our DNA, to want to do those type of things, but we have to fight against the flesh. And the stuff that happened to me after getting psychic readings, just everything just went upside down in my life. Everything just got so bad. And only when I repented and like fasted, then I felt, you know, better. But when I was in that world again, after, you know, I stopped and I started again, I just had like the worst physical feelings, like the worst anxiety. God actually cured my anxiety for a while, but then when I got back into psychic readings, that anxiety came back. So I'm trying to like pray to God, like, please God, take this anxiety away. I repented, you know, but there are like there's a price to getting like psychic readings. And for some of you women who are in marriages and you're afraid, you know, you think your husband's cheating on you, whatever, the demonic, they don't like marriages. They want you to be single and miserable. So they're going to say something like, yeah, there's a third party, your husband's going to leave you, blah, blah, blah. And then it happens, even though it wasn't supposed to happen, because when you open that doorway, you allow legal access to a marriage that's like no longer protected by God, okay? And only when you repent, then maybe that marriage can come back. Because there's so many stories of people getting psychic readings. They predict something really bad for the relationship. And it happens because you're manifesting with that demonic agreement. But if you repent and go to God, then he can like repair that and he can bring you guys back together. This is just a warning, because I've seen so many stories of people getting readings and then the psychic says, oh, he's going to leave you, and you don't believe it because you've been like happy with this person, there are no issues, and then suddenly out of nowhere there's issues, there's a third party, and then you're left alone. Okay. And this is not something that was supposed to happen, but it is of the demonic when you open those doors after you get a psychic reading. I can talk more and more about this, but I'm here to warn people that you open doorways when you listen to psychic readings, when you get psychic readings, even for a couple seconds. If you're looking at a psychic reading, it opens a doorway. For like a year and a half, I didn't get any readings, and I was just casually looking on TikTok, and I wasn't paying attention. I just kind of stayed on this video, this woman giving like an oracle reading. It was like for 5 seconds or something. I quickly scrolled away. Immediately my bed started to shake. It was a doorway, dude, that like they were ready to come through. And it freaked me out. Even though I wasn't looking at it, it was still like me opening that doorway. And that night I heard like demonic voices in my apartment. I also got like scratches on my arm that's kind of healed now, but I got that after looking at that psychic reading. Okay. And I'm just here to warn y'all that this stuff opens doorways, and sometimes it's really hard to close it. So yeah, if you can, even if you don't get psychic reading for yourself, avoid looking at that stuff online. All right. Avoid like looking at horoscopes. They're all doorways, and the demonic, they do not play fair. If there's any legal right for them to come into your life, they will take advantage of that and wreak havoc. This is part 1.